In a massive cleanup effort following the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, videos and photos released by officials depict teams in protective gear using an exothermic cutting torch on sections of the steel structure. Rear Admiral Shannon Gil, speaking on behalf of the unified command overseeing the operation, emphasized that the top priority is to reopen the Port of Baltimore. This objective is divided into 3 phases: reopening the shipping channel, removing the ship, and clearing debris from the waterway. Progress has begun on these phases, with ongoing assessments of the bridge both above and below the waterline. Engineers, divers, and survey boats are working tirelessly despite challenging wind conditions to evaluate the bridge and devise plans for cutting it into manageable pieces for removal. A temporary channel is being devised to allow smaller ships to navigate while efforts to fully reopen the main channel continue. Container ships bound for Baltimore are being redirected to other ports, including the Port of Virginia, the Port of New York, and the Port of Philadelphia. The impact of the bridge collapse extends beyond the shipping industry, affecting the economy and livelihoods of thousands. Baltimore handles more cars and farm equipment than any other port in America, generating over $5 billion in worker wages, roughly $650 million in state and local tax revenue, and supporting more than 50,000 jobs.
To know that out there you have to navigate high winds and electric wires, to go out there and to see it up close, you realize just how daunting a task this is. You realize how difficult the work is ahead of us. With a salvage operation this complex, and frankly with a salvage operation this unprecedented, you need to plan for every single moment, and every time you take action to move a piece of wreckage, you understand that that requires you to reassess the situation.
I'm Rear Admiral Shannon Gil, speaking on behalf of the Unified Command. As I mentioned last night, our #1 priority of the Unified Command is to reopen the Port of Baltimore. And to do that, we've broken that into 3 phases. #1 phase is reopen the shipping channel. #2 is remove the ship. And #3 is to remove the debris from the bridge from the rest of the waterway. We're beginning to make progress on those phases. In the phase 1, we talked about that we need to do the assessments of the bridge, both above the waterline and beneath the water. Those assessments continue. As the governor said, we were out there today and we could see the engineers and the divers and the survey boats out there on the water in these difficult wind conditions, doing their job, doing their work to assess that bridge, to figure out how we can cut it up into the pieces we need to be able to lift. And back at the Unified Command, the governor, the commandant, all the elected officials, they could see those engineers working on those very plans. Engineers from the Army Corps of Engineers, Navy Supervisor of Salvage. We had state engineers there. There were some private engineers helping us, and we had some Coast Guard engineers there. And they're all working diligently to figure out that right plan to be able to break that bridge up into the right size pieces that we can lift. And the second part of that is we need to get the heavy lift equipment here. And we've been telling you that those cranes are on their way and that equipment's on that way. And behind us, you can see the first of those things that are arriving. They're arriving and they're going to continue to arrive for the next several days. And we're going to continue that planning so that we will be ready to be able to take advantage of that as soon as possible and do it safely.
Today, workers began the daunting task of cutting the destroyed bridge into pieces, a critical first step in the urgent effort to reopen the city's blocked port. CBS's Nicole Skanga is there and getting up close to it all with the U.S. Coast Guard. Nicole?
Good evening, Mark. Today, our closest look yet at the destruction. CBS News embedded with the U.S. Coast Guard, part of the 24/7 federal and state operation with a central mission to reopen the port. The 9th busiest port in America now at a standstill. The container ship Dolly trapped under an estimated 2,000 to 3,000 tons of twisted metal. Before the U.S. Coast Guard can reopen this vital shipping channel, authorities are rushing to clear the debris spanning 700 feet. We're about 250 yards away from the site of the bridge collapse. Behind me, you can see 1, 2, 3 cranes poised to lift the wreckage off of the container ship Dolly. A temporary channel is now in the works to get smaller ships moving.
if we can open up another one that will help the economy here and move traffic in and out of the Port of Baltimore, even if it's not the deep draft, we want to take advantage of that opportunity.
Baltimore-bound container ships now being rerouted to other ports.
That cargo will be redistributed between the Port of Virginia, the Port of New York, and the Port of Philadelphia.
Baltimore handles more cars and farm equipment than any other port in America.
Baltimore is the largest in the nation and certainly by far the largest on the U.S. East Coast, and there isn't a single place that can replace them.
The port generates over $5 billion in worker wages, roughly $650 million in state and local tax revenue, and more than 50,000 jobs, including roughly 8,000 port workers, like crane operator John Zafia.
We're all wondering how long it's going to take to clear the main channel so we can get ships back in so we can work.
Maryland lawmakers are now crafting a bill that, if greenlit, would stand up a temporary financial relief program run by the Department of Labor. It's designed to help workers who regularly clock in at the port, and now they're waiting for it to reopen.